Jason, thanks so much for us having a chance to talk for Spinema, which is a music column on a film site called Synapse. And again, a lot of times one of the things that happens as I review music is I think of things very cinematically, and I hear music that reminds me of film or has a cinematic quality. And you were one of those folks, so I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you a little bit about music and film and kind of those worlds and maybe how they might collide in your world. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And, I'm a big, obviously, I'm fond of music, but I'm a big fan of film as well. In fact, I mean, it, probably the most organic place to start is the very beginning.
awesome,
I remember being a kid and my dad taking me to go see Blade Runner.
nice,
I didn't know anything about it other than starred Han Solo, so I was in.
okay,
And the the second the film opens, it's just in this big Yamaha CS80, like blah, and the fucking it just the, that you got that wide shot of the fire coming up, and I was just like, I mean, my DNA changed in that moment. I was like, I want to do that thing. I didn't know what it was. I was like, I didn't know much about synthesizers or anything. I was just like, but that moment made the hair on my arm stand up, and I was like, I want to do that thing.
awesome. So so kind of going from there. Obviously, you're a music guy.
Right,
Why
right,
don't
right.
we introduce you a little bit, so for people who are watching, um, you know who you are, where you're from, and kind of what you do musically.
My name is Jason Wan. I'm a songwriter, producer, DJ. I'm born and raised in Portland, Oregon. Um, Love it here. I think it informs a lot of my art and who I am as a person. Um, and my most recent uh, couple albums have been under the name Signs,
Okay.
which was it's evolving. I mean, it started out as a way to showcase some of my production skills and write some songs and work with different. The original plan was to work with different vocalists for every song. It's not exactly how it worked out. And that has now evolved into one of the vocalists from the most recent record, which is called A Series of Moments, um, has become sort of my writing, well, not sort of my writing partner, my writing partner, and we're working on a full length um, together. And that's the first time I've worked with just one vocalist since 2013. So it's I guess kind of like being in a band, although she's in the UK, I'm here in Portland, so it's not dissimilar from working on the previous Signs records, in that there's a lot of email and a lot of trying to discuss abstract ideas without being in the same room, which is a bit of a challenge.
That's fair. So where's the name Signs come from?
A couple of places. One, because it was designed to be a collaborative thing, like I am Sign, whoever else I'm working with is co-sign, ergo we are Signs. Also, when I was a kid, I remember learning that all sound was derived from the sine wave, basically, and that kind of freaked me out. That there's just one fundamental wave shape, and everything is sort of a derivation of that. And then lastly, it was the name that I hated the least.
Fair enough. Sometimes it's hard to come up with a name that you like, right? I mean, when you're naming a project or something.
Well, for sure, for sure. And and you never know how it's going to land, and you want something that's, marketable and catchy, and hopefully someone else hasn't used, and blah 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 blah. And I think there are some other people that have used it before, but we'll deal with that at some point if we need to.
Hey, well, as long as they're not knocking down your door, I think you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, knock on wood.
So so like I said, your particular project that you have out right now, felt cinematic to me. You know, although I will say, it also, I think one of the things I noted was a quote of yours in your bio where you said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus," and
Yeah.
I kind of like that motto, the for fun, dancey, always kind of moving, uh, which I feel like kind of exemplifies what your sound is, at least in this record.
Yeah, I mean, much music, and in particular, dance music, that is kind of boring, or that like there's no like supposed to put my lighter in the air. You know what I mean? Like that should never be a guess. And
I
like,
get that, yeah.
and I think the perfect pop song is 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and you should be able to sing along by the second chorus, and it should stick in your head like a gnarly earworm. And I try to impose those rules on whatever I do, just because those are the songs that I was fortunate enough to grow up in the 80s, and there were so many amazing pop songs
Yeah.
in the 80s, and they were just so catchy. I mean, you look at a record like Billie Jean, like even the bass line hook, the
Oh,
drums are a hook, and like the whole thing is just hook after hook after hook after hook. And you just don't hear records like that anymore. And I set myself the ambitious task of like trying to. I didn't think I was in the same league as Quincy Jones or those dudes, but like I wanted to try to shoot for something and like make a statement in that way.
awesome. So we opened up the conversation. You talking about Blade Runner, and you're saying, "Nah, I want to do that." Have you ever tried to dip your toe into score or getting into the film world at all?
Yeah, I've helped a friend out with little student indie film and just sort of some atmospheric sort of Stranger Things kind of stuff, and I really like a lot of film work like Vangelis and Giorgio Moroder and John Carpenter and those guys that and um it's the opportunity hasn't presented itself, except for backwards. I made this like weird art movie collage thing for a series of moments that was basically a re-edited version of Future World with some other stuff with lyrics on it. It's
Yeah, I've
but
watched a good chunk of it. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, but there's also sort of textualize the songs in a filmic way as a sort of practice for like, okay, like one of the things I've been doing with the record I'm working on now is like watching like old sci-fi stuff and like working on music at the same time and trying to get a vibe from it, or sort of much like a film score composer would do. And maybe down the road, if and when the opportunity presents itself, I'll be prepared.
it's very cool. So what kind of sci-fi are you watching, and what kind of sci-fi are you into?
I like a lot of the 70s stuff and a lot of bad sci-fi, but like, you know,
There's nothing bad
anything.
about bad sci-fi. I'm into it. That's cool.
I just watched this movie called Rage War, about a dude whose girlfriend gets kidnapped by a warlock, and he gets like in love with his computer, and like and the bailiff from Night Court was the demon guy. I mean, it was
Oh,
insane.
it's funny you say that, and I totally saw a trailer for that on some big thing of trailers I was watching. So I haven't seen it, but as soon as you said the bailiff from Night Court, I was like, oh yeah, that's the movie with Richard Mall. Okay, yeah.
I believe it's on Tubi, Tubi.
Yes, yes. I think I saw it also on another service that I have. Yeah, but that's where I saw those coming up. I think it just got added to a bunch of services like in the last month, and I'm yes, it's on my list. So it's funny you say that because it's on my list.
Like I've been watching stuff like Megaforce, York, a lot of like Italian stuff,
Mhm.
like from the '60s, like Danger Diabolic. I guess that's not really sci-fi, but
Yeah, there's kind of stuff in those '60s, '70s where they're not technically sci-fi, but they have that sci-fi vibe to them.
right.
Yeah, because I always group, Marathon Man, which is only vaguely science fiction, in '70s movie, but I always group it with things like Logan's Run and Blade Runner in my head because there's something about the vibe that feels like that '70s sci-fi to me, and I feel like that some of that Italian '60s '70s stuff has a similar vibe.
Especially like the Dino De Laurentiis
Right.
stuff, and that was like, you know, and Ghosts of was it Ghosts of Mars? Anyway, where they had the badass leather outfits from like the '40s. Like that movie was awesome.
Nice.
No,
Nice.
vampires.
I was gonna say Ghost of Mars is that's the John Carpenter movie that I think most
Oh
people
yeah,
consider one of his worst. But I think it's got some really cool looking stuff in it, even though it's not a good movie.
yeah, but like he doesn't give a shit.
No.
He just does what he wants to do, and like that I aspire to is just like I'm gonna do what I do, and the rest of you can either like it or not. I don't care.
Well, and then you brought him up as a composer too. Like he he's got such a unique sound on the music he composes that it's really even like you can hear certain influences, but if it's a Carpenter score written by Carpenter, it's a Carpenter score like right away. Like he's got his own
Right.
sound, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, to a lesser extent, Clint Eastwood is a similar guy, but that's another conversation.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We don't have to go there. I got you.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I think on our site, a lot of us are genre guys. I often get in the one that gets accused for having the worst taste. So I think that I'm okay with really bad movies.
Well, it's like a fan of time-based art
Right.
because 70 minutes, it takes 70 minutes, whereas a painting, you can look at it for 10 seconds and like, I'm out, or you could stare at it for 3 hours, you know.
Especially if you're
Um,
if you're on some substances, you can probably stare at it for even longer.
right. But like I just have you seen that New York Ninja movie or heard about it?
So I'm very familiar with it, but I have yet to watch it. I didn't have the money to order myself a copy yet.
Um, that was somebody's dream. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I feel like, and so I like love it. Like I watch the credits because I'm like, man, if I was like Electric, I'd want to be proud of that and like have my mom watch it in the credits and shit. And I'm like, I try to. A lot goes into making a piece of art like that, and I feel like it's as a viewer, like I know not everyone watches the credits, but I try to because I just think and like same goes with like shitty movies. Like they probably didn't know they were making a shitty movie at the
Right.
time.
No, that's fair.
They
I
just
mean, and you got to think like some of the people, historically, I think we all appreciate him now looking back, but during his time, people thought Ed Wood's movies were horrible, you know,
right,
and but I don't know that there's a man when you actually learn about him that loved filmmaking more than him.
right.
The guy just loved what he did, and even when he knew it wasn't good, didn't care. He was just having a good time with his friends and and doing something he loved. And I think like that's something to aspire to for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I try to. with everything I make, it's got to satisfy an audience of one.
Yeah.
If anyone else likes it, that's gravy. But like, if I was entertained, then it's valid.
Yeah, that's fair. So just that, you knew at an early age you wanted to do music and do stuff like that. How young did you actually start tooling around and doing stuff?
So I was like 13. When I told my parents I wanted to make, like they were like, not, no, you take piano lessons, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to program synthesizers. I don't need to learn how to play. I'd like had a very keen idea of what I wanted to do, and they were like, well, then you're gonna do it on your own. And so, I sort of started studying magazines and books and like learning about keyboards and working odd jobs, and then eventually got some money and bought my first thing and taught myself how to use it. And from then on, I mean, I did my first CD was in 1994.
Okay.
And I've been basically doing it ever since.
I mean, to be fair, that's only a couple years after CDs really got big, so you were doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there was like 3 pressing plants, and like some big release at the time that was like, anyway.
I think I got my first CD player around like 92. Sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah. But it was, always make just whether or not other people care about it or listen. But like, I'm compelled to do it. I have to. It's a compulsion.
That's fair. It's kind of like I'm compelled to write. Like I have to write, whether it's writing about like I write about stuff most of the time. I like writing essays about movies I love and essays about music I love, and whether it's a simple review or it's a 10-page diatribe about feminism in Assassination Nation. I just reread a piece I wrote a couple years ago. So, it's just something that like, yeah, I'm compelled to do that. And like, I've had a crappy week at work so far, and that's what I'm burying myself. Second, I get back from work, I'm burying myself in that, as much as I can, because it kind of helps me clear my head and keep me focused. So I can see that, anyone who has kind of their thing, their art, their whatever, I could see that being something that you can't really stop doing once you start doing it. It's a compulsion. I get that.
Yeah, well, and like, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but like, if you don't do it for long enough, like, your life seems to go to hell.
Yep. Yeah.
Sort of I see like it. Get it. I have to get it out of me somehow.
Yeah. Definitely, and and honestly, like even like certain movies or music that I watch, I experience, like I can't not write about it. Like if I don't write about it, it feels like I didn't fully finish the experience. Like I have something to say and I have to get it out. So like my wife's an artist. And she draws and paints and she sews and makes really awesome clothing and things like that. And so,
oh wow,
she's got a variety of different, art hobby, and not just hobbies too. She makes stuff and sells it. But like, went to design school and stuff like that. So like, I really resonate with that. What you're saying is like, as an example, like my wife we watch movies every night. Like we fall asleep watching a movie. It's like a thing we do. And she has to be knitting the whole time. Like she can't not be using her hands in some way. She,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of part of her, whether it's sewing, it's knitting, it's drawing, it's painting, like there's a whole variety of different things, but she's always doing one of them. So it is really interesting to me to watch, and interact having her there next to me all the time. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, so just out of curiosity, like I said, we're a film site, so I do like to ask people too, just like, have you seen anything cool lately besides Rage War, which is on my list, and I'm making sure I will
Uh,
watch it.
One of the best things I've seen recently, last night in Soho.
Good movie.
Um, I don't know how people didn't love it.
Yeah.
Music was fantastic. It was story zigged where you thought it was going to zag. It had Terrence Stamp, like what's not to love? Like, it's
Yeah.
great.
I was a big
Um,
fan as well. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I think I think having it dubbed as a horror film in a lot of the things I saw were a little inaccurate.
yeah,
Even though there were, the idea of it is horrifying. Some of the things about it are really horrifying, but in actuality, it didn't feel paced like a horror movie.
it was thriller type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of it was just cool period drama too. Like, so I
Right.
dug that. Um,
Oh, but I really enjoyed. I was ready to hate it.
what? I'm sorry, you cut out for a
Uh,
second. What movie was that?
the new Dune.
Oh, okay. Weirdly enough, I haven't watched that yet.
Um, for Bear. I was like, this is gonna suck, and I'm gonna watch it. Sure that my confirmation bias is confirmed, and I was like, it's good. Like I'm supportive of the choices that he made, like of the stuff that he kept from the Lynch stuff,
Okay.
and where he make those choices. He made different choices, and like uh, the book is always a different thing from the movie.
Sure.
I'm never gonna say one is better than the other. They're just different. Like, it's an inaccurate comparison. Um, but I thought it was great. I thought it was beautifully done. My only complaint is I didn't think Timothy Chalamet had gravitas to be, you know, a chosen one type
Hmm.
character. But that's a casting call, and like,
Are you a big fan of the Lynch film?
I'm not a huge fan of it, but it was. Um, I think you have a natural affinity to films that you saw when you were at a certain age.
100%. That's what I was going to say. For me, it's a movie that means a lot to my youth, but not necessarily a movie
Right.
I love to this day.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and it's funny, some of the scenes in it, up until like I blended when I was as a kid, some of the scenes in it with Star Wars, and I was like the Sarlacc pit with like the big worms and this, and they kind of went
Right.
together in
Right.
my head. And it wasn't until I was in like high school and college that I started going, oh wait, that wasn't from that. Oh, okay. So because you watch these movies a ton on television, you know. Like I grew up in the New York area, and we had a local station, WPIX, that like played Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon movies, and I think I saw Dune and Star Wars on them so commonly that they intertwine so much with me. Even though Star Wars is very integral in my life as well, I'm a big Star Wars guy. I Yeah, Dune was something when I was young I watched a lot, and I didn't rewatch it as an adult until pretty recently, in preparation for the new movie. And then I haven't watched the new movie yet, so I'm actually just
I
falling behind.
I did the same exact thing. Like, I hadn't seen Dune in years, and I was like, this is not as awesome as I remember.
That's fair. There's
Like,
a lot of things like that, I think, when I revisit them. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Are you
but
familiar with Jodorowsky's Dune project?
oh, greatest film that never got made.
Yes.
Like, what an insane documentary was, like, beginning to end, just insanity.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, they were gonna set a giraffe on fire. Like he was making fun of Pink Floyd and was gonna have, Orson Welles, and I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, and I mean Jodorowsky's films are all kind of batshit crazy anyway, but
Right.
like his
Holy
Dune
Mountain,
just seems amazing.
Holy Mountain's not an easy watch.
No, no, yeah. I mean, I don't dislike Holy Mountain. I like Holy Mountain, but I'm more of a El Topo Santa Sangre guy.
Okay.
And I think it's because I still appreciate films with narrative that make sense. And Holy Mountain, for half the film, has no real narrative. It gets to having a narrative, kind of. And then at the end it says, well, fuck your narrative. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's funny. I have friends of friends who are actually really close with the guy who made Jodorowsky's Dune.
Oh, wow.
So what's interesting about that film is without that film, Jodorowsky's more recent output probably never would have happened, because it's what got him back together with his production partner.
Right.
If they hadn't spoken in 25 years or something until that movie, which is kind of crazy because they both had gotten over their crap and didn't know that the other one was over it until this whole thing was happening, and they were like, oh wow, So, I mean that's a really cool story when you really look at it. But I was just wondering because when I watched that, I think, man, that's a movie I really wish I could have seen.
Oh, absolutely, positively. Like I like that. I mean, it couldn't have been made, but like it should have been.
Right, it's true. I mean, you there's so many ideas that you're like, well, that never would have happened, and that never would have happened. Maybe that would have happened, but he had blown through so much of his budget in pre-production that it could never have even, like, he would have needed millions and millions and millions of dollars more to even pretend to make that movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many thousands of drawings did Ralph McQuarrie do? I mean, good Lord.
It's nuts. And I mean, that stuff's really cool. Like looking at that, yeah. But no, that's very, very cool. And looking at, these movies, like Lynch is a good example, since we were just talking about Lynch. I've always really appreciated the music in his films a lot. Both the score and, like, I like a film that can have good score side by side with some nice pop music.
It's a tricky thing to pull off.
It is, because
to do it well.
You have your needle drop movies that are going to have tons of great pop, but it doesn't always work with what's going on. It doesn't always, I mean, like, on the other hand, like, there are movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, the two of those, which are my favorite Marvel movies because they're not really like the other Marvel movies.
Right.
And they're needle drop movies, big time. But all the needle drops work. And so I like that.
It's like Baby Driver. Like, that movie couldn't exist without, like, the soundtrack.
Oh my God, that soundtrack is so good. And, like, that's one of, if not my favorite Edgar Wright movie, since we were talking about Last Night in Soho, right. Which Last Night in Soho has a much different feel than his other movies. He really kind of put away his sarcastic wit a lot and only brought a little bit of that in, which is cool because it was cool to see him do something different. But man, I watched Baby Driver and the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim, and I just love those movies so much.
Well, and like the Sparks documentary that
I haven't watched that yet. I heard it was amazing.
It's amazing. Even if you don't know anything about Sparks, like,
that's what I heard.
It's a pretty inspirational story.
Cool. Well, that's going on to my list. It's on Hulu, maybe?
I think it's on Netflix.
Maybe it's Netflix. I know it's on one of them.
Just heads up, it's a covers 5 decades, so it's a 2.5-hour movie. I'm okay with that. On a good documentary, I'm okay with that. You want to give me a nice poppy popcorn movie and it's 2 hours plus, I'm gonna have a hard time. But if it's something with some real meat to it, I'm okay with it. Right.
Yeah. So, Well, awesome, man. Hey, so I don't want to keep you forever, but I'm really enjoying the conversation.
No,
And
that's
you
a
too.
matter, man. Like I'm like if you're down to chat, I'll chat more. Like
Well, talk a few more minutes,
but
and for me, it's a little late.
yeah,
I'm hitting the 10 o'clock mark, so I won't be up too much later. I got to get up for work, but yeah, man, like, um, if you had a dream kind of project, let's just say you got to rescore. Let's do this. Let's say you had to rescore one of your favorite films. What would be one of your things you'd want to tackle, or at least a style or genre you'd want to tackle?
um, I would want to do something like. I would want to do something like Barbarella or something that's just like like a heavy metal
Nice.
thing where it's just like so visually over the top that you could because one of the things that pisses me off about film music now is like there's no hooks.
Yeah.
There's no John Williams scores anymore. It's all just like like there's no you can't like like you think of Danny Elfman's Batman score and you know it.
Yeah.
But like I challenge you to think of like the score from Inception other than blah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
or
even like the newest Matrix came out. I've always liked the pop music. I mean, it's not really pop.
right,
It's industrial and whatever that's in
right,
it.
right, right,
But I don't always love the score in it.
right,
When it's more score, it's not that I don't like it. It kind of works, but I don't remember it. But like there are
right,
some songs that like when they drop, those are scenes that I remember. Like, oh, okay, this song cues off this battle, this fight.
right.
And
Like when you
yeah,
hear that propeller heads thing,
yes,
or
exactly. That's a great
it's like
example.
you play that scene in your head when you hear that song,
Right, right.
and like the score doesn't do that for you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But
modern
like,
scores
but
don't.
like you're saying, like as far as like the Elfman Batman scores, I feel like the last franchise I remember score really hitting me. That's like a big franchise. Is probably the Harry Potter movies. Weirdly enough,
Totally.
I
I think that
love the
was
scores in that. I
yeah.
don't
That was
remember who did all that stuff off the top of my head. It's somebody. It's one of the big guys. It is.
right. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. When I think of like kind of the big cinema moments, a lot of that score doesn't. Now there are really great scores and things going on still, but it's not usually in the way those big movies were. That it's super memorable, and that's
Right.
something that I hadn't really
Like
thought about.
I mean, like I know the Superman theme from the Richard Donner thing. Like
Oh my god,
haven't seen a movie in 20 some odd years, but I know it. But like the movie I watched yesterday, I can't remember the score because
right?
it's
Well,
like
yeah, I'm with you.
other than like in the trailer, there was probably like a slowed down piano ballad version of another song that I liked, which I'm like, why do they keep doing
That's a
that?
big thing, both especially with trailers. But I mean,
Yeah,
even the new Matrix movie I brought up, even though I liked the cover, the you could have just used the original White Rabbit. I would be cool with that. You didn't really need to give me another.
yeah,
But
no. Well, and I was like, and I think Donnie Darko already did that the best
right,
with their, I'm like, oh, it's the Donnie Darko thing, the slowed down cover
I
of another
yeah, I
song.
wonder if that's the first movie that kind of really kicked off that craze. It might be.
That's it. That to my recollection that it is because I was like, oh shit, like that Tears for Fears song. Holy,
Yeah, well, and I
oh,
do love that version of the Tears for Fears song a lot.
100%.
Oh well, I don't mind listening to Tears for Fears too, but which actually kind of brings me back to you because I think Tears for Fears fits in that 80s vibe that you clearly have with your music.
Oh, and I'm very influenced by guys and like a lot of the Depeche Mode and New
Right.
Order and like the usual suspects. But I like right now up that was fun and bit like, maybe free myself from the constraints of thinking about pop and just maybe doing more atmospheric stuff, because I listen to a lot of ambient and stuff. It's just I don't make that kind of stuff.
But I do think
generally.
that stuff creeps into your sound, because I do think you have some cool soundscapes in the back, kind of guiding what you're doing. Like there's a pop sense, out front, but there's some cool stuff behind it that's not necessarily pop.
It's like I could sit down and write like a 7-minute ambient tune, but I find myself when I'm getting bored and I'm like, oh, I need like a chorus thing here, and then it becomes this truncated sort of pop song. But they start is like long.
It's like musical ADHD.
Yeah, that's 100%. I have ADHD.
That's fair. Yeah, my son is the poster child for ADHD, so I get it.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I would want to do something like one of those visually over the top movies if I was gonna get a dream project.
That's cool. Yeah, I do think that'd be a cool way to go. And the cool thing is that some of those movies work with weird ambient things, and some of them have just straight ahead like bangers, throughout, and I think they both kind of work. You think of some of the more insane visuals, and I'm a horror guy, bro. I mentioned that earlier. I think of some of like Argento's Goblin scores and stuff, like with this crazy rock band.
Language.
Yeah.
I love all the Goblin stuff.
Yeah, or like even you think of movie he produced, but Lamberto Bava did Demons, and that's got it's got a scene where there's a Motorhead song blaring while a guy's riding around on a motorcycle in a theater chopping off zombie heads, or not zombies, but demon heads. It's amazing, So
my answer. My dream project is working with that Panos Cosmatos guy.
Oh,
who did Beyond the Black Rainbow and
Mandy, yeah.
Like that guy gets it.
He makes some wacky stuff, and with that, I think it's a good spot to kind of wrap this up, because that's a good dream project. I'll take that.
Right, yeah.
So, folks want to check out your music and your cool video you talked about, that cool video project you did. Where can they find all that stuff?
So the album, the streaming services, it's called The Series of Moments by Signs, SINES. Just look for, this face being ripped off and the robot underneath it, in the album art. Homage to Future World. And then, it's on Vimeo. I think it's just under Jason Wan.
And I'll make sure I'll probably embed it, because I have it. So
perfect.
So people, so really all they need to do is scroll down a little bit further from this video, and you'll see it. So click it.
Yeah. If you want more dope content, hit like and subscribe, because it helps the channel, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Hey, well, Jason, it was great talking. It won't be the last time. And
all right,
let's talk again soon. Take care, man.